the things I've noticed coming at this, not as a politician, but as an outsider, is that sometimes you use these traditional political debates, philosophical debates about to cut entitlement spending or not, as a way to sidestep, in some ways, the harder question, but also the more practical question of, what if you could just look at what savings we could get to by making sure that nobody who isn't even supposed to receive that payment is actually getting it? And I think it's irresponsible to begin a discussion around cutting entitlements before we've actually wrung all of that waste and all of that excess error out of the system. Saying that you'll get into grandiose discussions about whether or not the president has the power to impound funds. Well, if you read the statute, it actually says the president doesn't have to spend the money if it's known to go towards waste, fraud, or abuse. And so I've seen this pattern in Washington, D.C., where often it's a bit of a deflection, a bit of a conflation to say that there's this grand political philosophical question that we would rather be debating or banging our heads on the wall about, when in fact there's lower hanging fruit that we can all deliver in ways that require real work.
That much, if not most, of what the federal regulatory state is doing is on its terms right now illegal and unconstitutional. That needs to be fixed. Once you fix that, that's actually the root cause for a lot of the spending overruns and the carelessness with which the government's contracting with private parties who are charging the federal government far more than they would charge either another government or another private counterparty. Looking at if the overruns of just raw waste, fraud, and abuse, the unauthorized dollars that are being spent, over $500 billion a year of unauthorized expenses are still going out the door. You look at the way in which that money is being spent through Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. People love to have lazy armchair discussions about, oh, are you going to make cuts to entitlements or not? When in fact, the dirty little secret is that many of those entitlement dollars aren't even going to people who they were supposed to be going to in the first place. They're hundreds of billions of dollars of savings to extract just from basic program integrity measures to make sure that the person who's actually getting the money was indeed the person for whom it was intended or was supposed to be legally getting the money in the first place. And so my view is a lot of the political philosophical musing about whether or not we should be cutting entitlements or not, or whether or not the president can impound funds, it's a deflection from the fact that there's a lot lower hanging fruit in terms of waste, fraud, abuse, error, program integrity failures that you got to go after first before we ever need to get to those harder political questions. And I hope that's a big part of what we're able to accomplish.
Entitlements or not. When in fact, the dirty little secret is that many of those entitlement dollars aren't even going to people who they were supposed to be going to in the first place. There are hundreds of billions of dollars of savings to extract just from basic program integrity measures to make sure that the person who was actually getting the money was indeed the person for whom it was intended or was supposed to be legally getting the money in the first place. So in other words, let me translate this for you. What Vivek is saying is, bro, listen, we don't even need to go through Congress. We don't even need Congress to pass some sort of a bill that cuts Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, or reforms them is the term of art they would use. We're going to reform Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Reform by cutting it. He's saying we don't even need Congress. We can do this on our own already. What we can do is cut Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, and then tell everybody, bro, we were just getting rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse. We were just bringing back basic program integrity. So in other words, cut the programs without going through Congress and say, we already have the authority to do this because this is just waste, fraud, and abuse, so we don't even need to go through Congress. We're just upholding our end of the bargain, making the payments more pure, making sure the money's going where it's supposed to go. But newsflash, that is not what the fuck they're going to do. That is not what the fuck they're going to do. Every time the Republicans make cuts to necessary, vital programs that help people, they pretend, oh, we're just getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse, bro. And we're not even really cutting the program. We are just reforming the program. So we're just making it better for the long term. We're saving it for the long term. This is the Weasley terminology they use when at the end of the day, they want to cut your grandma's health care. Here's what they're going to do. Unelected, mega wealthy freaks cutting the social safety net for people in this country who need help while they loot the treasury themselves. Elon Musk taking so much government money, so many subsidies. I said this the other day.
You know, again, what's crazy about these people that continue to complain about Elon Musk getting government money? It's funny because Elon Musk is actually saving the government money, right? Elon Musk with SpaceX, he's doing projects for way cheaper than what NASA can do, right? Because SpaceX is a private company, which means they have applied the principles that private companies use when it comes to getting things done at a lower cost. And this is why SpaceX now is doing so much of the work for NASA, because it costs less. These people think like children. This is how a child thinks. I'm so serious. Because again, you know, hey, had the government actually spent that $40 billion with Starlink to provide internet in rural America, people actually would be connected to the internet, right? And for a lot cheaper. We would not have spent all that money and people would have actually gotten the service that we paid for. But because we have a government that is run by people that think like this clown, yeah, we spent all this money and we have nothing to show for it. Nobody's been connected to the government internet.
An immigrant billionaire welfare queen who wants to keep funneling himself the money while cutting your grandma's healthcare. It doesn't get any lower than that. It doesn't get any darker than that. This guy should be fucking deported. Why should the richest man in the world, unelected richest man in the world, get to make decisions about our federal budget and what we prioritize? Get the fuck out of my country. God damn it. I can't stand these people.